You look in the mirror. You tilt your head. You run your hands through the curls you've lived with for decades. And for a moment, something doesn't feel quite right. Not terrible, not dramatic. Just different. The bounce that once made you feel playful now sits a little flatter. The softness that used to frame your smile feels more unpredictable. And the reflection looking back seems a few steps away from the woman you still feel like inside. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And you're certainly not doing anything wrong. Hair changes as we do. It reacts to time, to hormones, to habits formed out of good intentions. But sometimes, without meaning to, we get in our own way, especially when it comes to curls. Welcome to Golden Elder Days, where beauty grows deeper with time and wisdom walks hand in hand with style. Today, we're talking about one quiet little habit many women with curly or wavy hair pick up after 50. It's usually done out of care, it's often recommended. But it could be quietly adding years to your look. And more importantly, it may be keeping you from feeling like yourself. So if you've ever wrestled with your curls and wondered if you're doing too much or not enough, I would love to hear from you. Share your age, where you're watching from, or just type 1 in the comments if this topic touches something real. If this sounds like something you care about, go ahead and like the video, subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a gentle conversation like this one. Let's begin. Let's begin with the habit itself. It's one I see often, especially among women with curly or wavy hair. Somewhere along the way, we begin reaching for more product, more definition, more control. We twist, we scrunch, we layer on mousse, gel, spray, and sometimes a cream or oil for good measure, all in the name of making the curls behave. At first, it feels like a solution. The strands sit in place. The shape holds. But slowly, something shifts. The curls no longer bounce the way they used to. They harden, they clump. Instead of soft and full of movement, they become stiff, overly shiny, or even crispy to the touch. And while the curl may be there, it's no longer lively. It feels frozen, like it's been told to sit still and not move. And when that happens, something subtle but powerful occurs. The hair, which once added softness and flow to the face, begins to create contrast. The skin continues to soften with age. The eyes hold stories and light. But the hair becomes sharper, more fixed, more rigid. That tension can make us look older than we feel, not because aging is wrong, but because something feels out of sync. A curl that no longer bounces is a little like laughter held back. It exists, but it's missing the joy. And it's not just about the product. It's about the energy we bring to our routine, the pressure to keep things in place, the belief that every strand must behave, that volume must be tamed, that frizz must be feared. We stop letting our hair respond to the weather, to the wind, to the natural rhythm of our day. We start treating it like a problem to fix instead of a feature to enjoy. So, why do we do this? Often, it starts from a good place. We want to take care of ourselves. We want to show up polished. We want to feel in control when so much else is shifting. And sometimes, it's simply what we've always done. But what served us at 30 may not serve us at 60. And that realization is not a loss. It's an opening. Let's keep going. Let's take a deeper look at what's underneath the habit. For many of us, it's not really about the product, it's about the feeling. Because frizz, to a lot of women, can feel like chaos. It makes us feel exposed, unfinished, like we've lost control of something we once knew how to manage. And as we get older, that need for control can grow stronger. Life becomes more unpredictable. Bodies change, families shift, and sometimes taming our curls feels like a small way to hold the line. There is science behind the shift too, As estrogen declines, our hair begins to change on a structural level. It can become drier, less elastic. The curl pattern loosens or tightens in new ways. What once felt full and soft might now feel wiry or flat. That can be unsettling, especially when it happens slowly, over time, and without a clear explanation. One day, you just look in the mirror, and the hair you remember is not there anymore. I once worked with a woman named Karen who had always loved her wild, joyful curls. In her 20s and 30s, they framed her face like a halo. She never used much product, never tried to flatten or control them. But in her 50s, she told me, things started to shift. She began smoothing them back more often, pulling them into tighter buns, using heavier creams and gels to make sure they would not misbehave. She said she did not even notice the change at first, but eventually she missed the feeling of running her fingers through her hair and letting it fall freely. She missed how alive it used to feel, and how alive it used to make her feel. The truth is, control is not always beauty, and the most beautiful hair is not the most perfect. It is the most honest, the most responsive, the most free to move. Letting your hair move again is not about going back in time, it is about coming back to yourself. Letting go of the pressure to smooth every flyaway or define every wave can create a softness that feels more youthful than any serum ever could. Because what we are really restoring is not just the curl, it is the confidence that lives inside it. Now let's take a gentle look at how overstyling affects not just the hair, but the face it frames. You may not notice it right away, but when curls are overly defined, overly stiff, or pressed into tight patterns, they can actually shrink the appearance of the face. The natural flow disappears. The volume that once softened your features now pulls everything inward. It creates a kind of visual tension that can make us look more tired, more rigid, even when we are not. Softness is not just a texture, it is a mood, a presence, and youthful faces, regardless of age, are almost always surrounded by some kind of softness. Whether it is the gentle lift of loose curls around the cheekbones, or the easy movement of strands that shift with expression, softness gives the face room to shine. When hair becomes too structured, it stops complementing the face. It begins to compete with it, and that shift can be subtle but powerful. What was once a frame becomes a helmet. It stops light from bouncing naturally. It creates shadows where there should be glow. The curls sit there, perfect but still, beautiful in shape, but not in spirit. Think of the difference between a halo and a helmet. A halo floats, it radiates. A helmet presses, it confines. One invites, the other defends. Our hair can do the same. Letting go of that stiffness is not just about improving a hairstyle. It is about giving ourselves permission to release the tension we carry elsewhere. We do not always realize how much effort we put into holding it all together. But sometimes, when we soften one thing, others begin to soften too. The next time you style your hair, ask yourself how you want to feel, not just how you want to look, because your hair, when left just a little more free, can become a gentle reminder. That beauty does not need to be controlled. It only needs space to move. Now that we have talked about what makes curls feel heavy or rigid, let's step into a better approach, one that values movement over control, a style that reflects not just your hair, but your energy. Because the truth is, you are not giving up structure. You are simply inviting breathability. The first shift begins with product. Many of us reach for stronghold gels out of habit. We want definition, so we reach for the firmest option. But what if definition could also feel light? Curl creams, mousses, and leave-in conditioners with flexible hold can still define your curls, but in a way that feels soft, touchable, and natural. Look for words like lightweight, moisture-rich, or flexible finish. These are gentle clues that a product will support your curl, not smother it. Next, how you dry your hair matters. Air drying is a quiet gift to curly hair. It lets each strand settle into its own rhythm. If you are in a hurry, a diffuser on low heat and low speed can still protect the shape while adding lift. Avoid blasting your curls into place. Think of it more like coaxing than forcing. Instead of combing or brushing curls after the shower, try finger combing while your hair is still damp. This helps distribute product without pulling out the pattern. It respects the way your hair wants to form. And when it is time to style, choose gentle scrunching with your hands instead of raking or twisting too tightly. Soft pressure, intentional touch. The curls you want are not locked into place. They are alive. They sway when you turn your head. They respond to the breeze. They move when you laugh. That kind of hair does not just look youthful. It feels that way. And remember, you are not abandoning care. You are choosing a different kind of care. One rooted in grace. A style that does not fight your hair but collaborates with it. A look that lets you walk into a room and feel seen, not sculpted. Because beauty after 50 is not about pushing harder. It is about easing into what works, what feels true, what gives your face and your spirit a little more lift. Let your curls echo your mood. Light, free, and thoughtfully untamed. Let's pause here and honor something tender. You are not meant to have the same curls at 55 that you had at 25. Just like your heart has stretched, deepened, and weathered more storms, your hair too has changed with you. And that is not something to resist. It is something to witness. The shape of your curls may loosen, their bounce may soften, their color may shift into silvers, whites, or something in between, and that evolution is not a loss, it is a kind of quiet poetry. A language of growth, written in texture and time. Think of your curls the way you think of laugh lines. At first, you might miss the smoothness, but then, with just a little distance, you start to realize they are marks of presence, of living fully, of smiling even when things felt uncertain. Your changing curls are no different. They tell stories, and they are still beautiful. I think of women I have worked with who once fought these changes, women who straightened or set their hair every day, trying to return to something familiar, but over time, something shifted. They began to let the natural texture through. They trimmed away the damage. They stopped coloring every few weeks and started blending the gray instead. And one day, they looked in the mirror and saw not a version of their younger self, but a new kind of beauty, one that felt freer, more relaxed, and more real. Letting your curls evolve is not giving up, it is letting go. Letting go of outdated rules, of pressure to look a certain way, of routines that no longer feel nourishing. When you allow those soft silver strands to mix with waves or coils, you often find something unexpectedly elegant. The shimmer of light at the temples, the softness around the eyes. The contrast between texture and tone that feels like a painting, not a performance. So if your curls are changing, let them. Listen to them. Care for them with moisture, with patience, with pride. They are still yours, just wiser now, just like you. So let's take a quiet breath together and gently gather what we have learned. The one curly hair habit to be mindful of is this. Defining your curls in a way that adds stiffness instead of softness. It often starts with good intentions, a desire for order, a wish to tame the frizz or bring structure back. But when styling becomes too rigid, something delicate is lost. Your curls stop moving, your hair stops breathing. And your reflection starts to feel like a version of you that no longer fits. But here is the beauty in all of this. You do not need a total transformation. You do not need to fight your hair into shape. Small shifts can do so much. a lighter product, a looser routine. A willingness to let your texture speak in its natural voice. These quiet choices soften the frame of your face. They invite movement, and they often reflect something deeper, a return to ease. A return to grace. A return to feeling more like yourself again. So let me ask you, what is your relationship with your curls today? Has it changed over time? I would truly love to hear your story. Whether it is a celebration, a struggle, or something tender in between, it belongs here. You belong here. If something in this video spoke to you, please take a moment to like it. Maybe share it with a friend who needs a little curl encouragement. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Golden Elder Days and turn on notifications. That way, you will never miss one of our quiet, meaningful conversations. As we say goodbye for now, let me leave you with this thought. You do not need to chase your younger self. You only need to honor who you are now, with softness and strength. That is the beauty that cannot be bottled. It grows quietly. It grows from within. And you are already living it. Hello there. If you enjoy gentle conversations, thoughtful reflections, and inspiring ideas about beauty, elegance, and growing into yourself after 50, then our community posts are just for you. This is where we share quiet thoughts, helpful tips, and simple reminders that you are not alone on this journey. Feel free to join the discussion, leave a comment, or simply read along and take what speaks to your heart. We're always happy to have you here.